Hey there, fantasy football fans. Amadeo here with Fantasy Alpha, the free fantasy football app for all your best fantasy insights to help you win your league. It's free in the App Store and on Google Play. Now, tonight's video is all about undervalued players. Players that are getting slept on draft day that we think are huge bargains. And I'm about to drop a bunch of numbers and reasons why you should consider drafting these players much higher than other people are on draft day. So let's get right to it. First up, we have quarterback Jared Goff of the Los Angeles Rams, who is being severely undervalued right now, and here's why. Last year, he threw for 4,688 yards and 32 touchdowns, and that was with Cooper Kupp missing 8 games. And he's got a lot of chemistry with this offense. It's his third year in McVay's system, third year playing with Robert Woods, third year playing with Todd Gurley, third year playing with Cooper Kupp, third year playing with Justin Reynolds, third year playing with Gerald Everett, third year playing with Tyler Higbee, second year playing with Brandon Cooks. So he has a lot of chemistry with all of these guys right now. And if Todd Gurley regresses because of his knee injury, they drafted Darrell Henderson in the third round of this year's draft to pick up the slack. So we love Jared Goff to put up similar numbers he did last year, if not better. So don't sleep Jared Goff on draft day. Next up is quarterback Philip Rivers of the Los Angeles Chargers, who gets undervalued almost every year, and here's why. In 6 straight seasons, he has thrown over 4,200 yards. And in those 6 seasons, he averages 31 passing touchdowns a year. Last year, he threw 32. Now this year, he gets tight end Hunter Henry back, who has scored 12 touchdowns in 29 career games. It's his third year playing with Mike Williams, who's coming off an 11-touchdown season, and it's his 7th season playing with Keenan Allen. And Rivers hasn't missed a game in 13 seasons. Even with the Melvin Gordon holdout, he still has Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson behind a great offensive line. So don't sleep Philip Rivers on draft day. Next up is 6-time Super Bowl champion quarterback Tom Brady of the New England Patriots, who is getting undervalued this year, and here's why. He's coming off a Super Bowl run where he threw for 343 yards, 348 yards, and 262 yards on his way to his 6th Super Bowl, so he can still play. New England drafted N'Keal Harry in the first round of this year's draft. Josh Gordon is reinstated. He's still throwing to Julian Edelman, still throwing to James White, and 2 years ago, he was MVP of the league. He threw for 32 touchdowns, threw over 4,500 yards, and last year, he still threw over 4,300 yards and 29 touchdowns with 2 rushing touchdowns. So don't let the Gronkowski departure fool you. Tom Brady can still play football at a very high level and a great offense, so don't sleep Tom Brady on draft day. Next up is running back Devonta Freeman of the Atlanta Falcons, who is getting undervalued this year, and here's why. Well, there is no more Tevin Coleman in Atlanta, and Devonta Freeman is completely healthy. In 2015, he had 14 touchdowns. In 2016, he had 13 touchdowns. In 2017, when he started to mix in more Tevin Coleman, he still scored 9 touchdowns before the injury bug hit him last year where he didn't really play. And Atlanta drafted 2 offensive linemen in the first round of this year's draft, signed another 2 veteran linemen to the team. Matt Ryan's playing the best football of his career. So is Julio Jones. There's not really much running back depth behind him. He's probably going to score over 10 touchdowns. He could even get up to the 14 touchdown range again. Do not sleep Devonta Freeman in Atlanta's offense this year on draft day. Next up is running back James White of the New England Patriots, who is undervalued right now, and here's why. In 2018, he caught 87 catches for 751 yards and 7 touchdowns, and he also ran in another 5 touchdowns. He had 123 targets last year, 94 carries. He's getting the ball a lot right now in New England. And Rob Gronkowski's departure opens up a lot more targets to spread around, and it's his 6th season with Tom Brady. That chemistry is very important, especially in this young backfield. So don't sleep James White and his production in New England. Next up is running back Lamar Miller of the Houston Texans, who's getting undervalued this year, and here's why. There is no real competition behind Miller for carries in Houston. They cut Foreman, they signed Duke Johnson, but Duke Johnson hasn't averaged more than 5 carries a game his last 3 years. And Miller is in a contract year. He is incentivized to play his best football yet, and Houston will run him a lot because of it. And Houston already runs him a lot. He averages 16.2 carries a game his last 3 seasons with Houston. And last year, he had a pretty good season. He had 973 rushing yards in 14 games. So Lamar Miller is going to get heavy volume in a contract year this year in Houston. Don't sleep him. Next up is wide receiver Jarvis Landry of the Cleveland Browns, who's getting undervalued right now, and here's why. He goes back to play in the slot. He has found a lot of success in the slot. In 2015, he caught 110 balls, 1,157 yards, and 5 touchdowns. In 2016, he had 94 catches for 1,136 yards and 4 touchdowns. 2017, he had 112 catches, 987 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Still had an alright season last year, catching 80 for 976 and 5 total touchdowns. That was his first year with the rookie rookie quarterback Baker Mayfield and no other wide receiver playing opposite him. Cleveland brought in Odell Beckham Jr. this year. That will soften the coverage on Landry, so he'll be much more open in the slot. And it's his second year playing with Baker Mayfield. He continues to grow that chemistry with him. And Jarvis Landry has 481 catches his first 5 seasons in the league. That is the most in the history of the league. So don't sleep Jarvis Landry in his second year with Baker Mayfield opposite Beckham on draft day. Next up is wide receiver Allen Robinson of the Chicago Bears, who's getting undervalued right now, and here's why. Now, last year, he had 94 targets in 13 games. He averaged over 7 targets a game, so he's the go-to wide receiver in Chicago. Now, last year, he finished with 55, 754, 4 touchdowns in 13 games, a modest stat line. But then in his playoff game, he had 10 for 143 and a touchdown. And there's a lot more room to grow with Mitchell Trubisky in his second year playing with him in Nagy's offense. And he's done it before. In 2015, he had a monster year. 80 catches, 1,400 yards, and 14 touchdowns. And he's only 26 years old. So we really think that Allen Robinson in his second year with Nagy and Trubisky at 26 years old as the go-to wide receiver in Chicago is being severely undervalued right now, so don't sleep him on draft day. Next is wide receiver Marvin Jones of the Detroit Lions, who's being undervalued right now, and here's why. In 3 seasons with Stafford, he averages 16.4 yards per catch and 6.8 targets a game. He's also scored 18 touchdowns in 40 games with Stafford, and in 2017, he caught 61 balls, 1,101 yards, and 9 touchdowns. So he's proved he can have a really good season. And with Kenny Golladay opposite him drawing most of the coverage, and Danny Amendola and TJ Hawkinson in the middle of the field, there's going to be a lot softer coverage on Jones this year. So don't sleep Jones' chemistry with Stafford on draft day. Next up, we have the proven tight end Kyle Rudolph of the Minnesota Vikings, who's getting undervalued right now, and here's why. In 2016, he had 132 targets, and he finished with 83 catches, 840 yards, and 7 touchdowns. In 2017, he had 57 catches, 532 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Last year, his first year with Cousins, he had 64 catches, 634 yards, and 4 touchdowns. But that was his second highest catch total and second highest yardage total of his career. There's a lot more room to grow with Cousins in his second year. He's playing opposite Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs, and they're going to command most of the coverage attention. So the middle of the field is going to be all his. And he hasn't missed a game in 4 seasons, and Minnesota gave him a contract extension. So we really like the proven tight end Kyle Rudolph and a really good offense this year. Don't sleep him on draft day. And the final player on this list is tight end Jimmy Graham of the Green Bay Packers, who's being undervalued right now, and here's why. Last year in Green Bay, his first year with Aaron Rodgers, he was on his way to over 800 receiving yards, but he broke his thumb midway through. He still continued to play, but he wasn't the same Jimmy Graham. Well, now he's in his second year with Aaron Rodgers. Let's take a look at the history of his second year with other quarterbacks. His second year with Drew Brees in New Orleans, he had 99 catches, 1,310 yards, and 11 touchdowns. His second year with Russell Wilson in Seattle, he had 65 catches, 923 receiving yards, and 6 touchdowns. So the second year with Aaron Rodgers right here seems to be the magic number for Jimmy Graham. And also, it's Jimmy Graham. He has 71 touchdowns on 611 catches. That is a touchdown-to-catch percentage of 12%, one of the highest in the league. So don't sleep Jimmy Graham in his second season with Aaron Rodgers on draft day. Well, that's it for undervalued players. Join us for our next video, 2019 Target Risers, dropping right here on the Fantasy Alpha YouTube channel, and be sure to subscribe below. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Fantasy Alphas for all your latest fantasy football insights and updates, and download the Fantasy Alpha app. It's free in the App Store and on Google Play. Until next time, I'm Amadeo with Fantasy Alpha.